I'm discussing Tenancy Tribunal case number 509-8708, Tenant versus Mrs. Penny McKay. The case was brought to the Tenancy Tribunal by the tenant. The tenant wanted compensation for the following grievances. 1. Failure to meet healthy home standards. 2. Breach of quiet enjoyment. And 3. Failure to maintain the property. Let's take a quick look at each of these grievances. The first grievance is failure to meet healthy home standards. One of the aims of the healthy home standards is to manage moisture ingress and drainage. This is achieved by ensuring properties have efficient drainage and guttering to prevent water build-up or moisture entering the home. The tenant claimed there was improper drainage of stormwater, which resulted in pooling underneath the house. The issue was noticed and raised by the tenant in May 2024. This was in direct violation of the Healthy Home Standard, which had to be complied with by 6th of July 2024. Despite the landlord not being aware of this pooling of water underneath the house, it was found that the landlord was indeed a violation of the Healthy Home Standard. The evidence proved that the current drainage system was not adequate in preventing moisture or dampness from affecting the house. Despite mitigating factors, the landlord was still ordered to pay the tenant $360 for damages. The second grievance was a breach of quiet enjoyment or unlawful entry. The landlord entered a side of the property detached from the main house to fix a light in the laundry. The tenant and the landlord agreed to this through text messages. The landlord then continued into the house to turn off the electricity, all while still communicating with the tenant. It was during this entry that the landlord noticed something untoward in the house and mentioned it later to the tenant. The tenant took offense to this and felt that their quiet enjoyment was breached. It was however found that the notice of entry through text messages was sufficient notice provided by the landlord and that the tenant did not experience interference with their peace and privacy. No compensation was therefore awarded to the tenant. The third issue brought was concerning maintenance. The Residential Tenancy Act 1986, Section 45, states that the property needs to be maintained in a state of cleanliness. The tenant found that the laundry light, the gardens, and the shower head were not maintained. Let's look at each issue individually. The laundry light did not work when the occupation commenced. Although it was eventually fixed, the tribunal found that it took unduly long. A small compensation was therefore awarded to the tenant for the inconvenience. The shower head mixer was faulty and the landlord notified a plumber. The plumber, however, took very long to fix the shower mixer and therefore a small compensation again was awarded to the tenant for this minor inconvenience. And finally, the issue of the gardens. The tenant reasoned that the gardens required a mass overhaul, which was promised by the landlord. There was, however, not a formal agreement or promise. The tenant was responsible for the maintenance of the gardens as per the initial tenancy agreement, and therefore no compensation was awarded for this regard. A total of $200 was awarded to the tenant for the laundry light and the shower mixer. Let's take a quick look at how adequate property management could have prevented this. Knowledge of and compliance with all applicable legislation and standards, including the Healthy Home Standards, Residential Tenancy Act, etc. The landlord was found to be in breach of these legislations. Proper communication and documentation. Use more formal communication such as emails or platforms to communicate, document inspections, and maintain any issues. And then timely responses to grievances and adequate explanation of how these grievances will be resolved. The landlord took very long to correct these issues raised by the tenant. And finally, at all times, professional conduct and interactions with tenants by the landlords or property managers. From the tribunal, it is clear that the landlord made casual remarks and promises which eventually led to unprofessional behavior and which was uncalled for. Thank you.